Welcome back to the AI Breakdown. The artificial intelligence space is not without controversy, as all of you listening will well know. Within the AI space, there are extreme ideological divergences between many of the people who spend all their time in this area. On one far end of the spectrum, we have the safety and pause folks. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the accelerationists. And then, of course, there are the folks who want to jump up and down on that spectrum because they think that AI is just stealing art, knowledge, creativity, etc. It was a true rarity then, when at the end of last week, the Department of Homeland Security announced the establishment of its first ever Artificial Intelligence Safety and Security Board, that every one of these groups, and representatives of individuals from all of these groups, universally condemned the 22 inaugural members who were added to the committee. Truly, we are coming together in hatred today, and obviously we're going to talk a little bit about what this says about the state of the discourse around AI safety, as well as the state of the discourse around regulatory capture in Washington, D.C. First of all, who is included? On the one hand, there are those who are leaders of startup AI labs, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, more established CEOs like those from NVIDIA, IBM, Microsoft, and Adobe. We also have some academics, like Nicole Turner-Lee, a senior fellow and director of the Center of Technology Innovation at the Brookings Institution, Alexander Reeve-Givens, the president and CEO of the Center for Democracy and Technology, a few civil rights advocates, such as Damon Hewitt, the president and executive director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, and Maya Wiley, the president and CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. And then we have some more random additions. We have Kathy Warden, the CEO and president of Northrop Grumman, who at least is in this whole military, industrial, government contractor area, so maybe has expertise in that way. But then you also have the CEO of Delta Airlines, the mayor of Seattle, the governor of Maryland, and a handful of others. So first of all, let's talk about the purpose of this group, and then we'll get into some of the critiques. The Wall Street Journal writes, "The AI Safety and Security Board is part of a government push to protect the economy, public health, and vital industries from being harmed by AI-powered threats. Working with the Department of Homeland Security, it will develop recommendations for power grid operators, transportation service providers, and manufacturing plants, among others, on how to use AI while bulletproofing their systems against potential disruption that could be caused by advances in the technology." Now, one of the big things that you'll see a lot of critiques focus in on is represented here by Soliferous Games, who writes, "This is such blatant conflict of interest. They're letting the AI industry write the laws for the AI industry." Ed Newton Rex, who left Stability AI to start new approaches to more rights-ready AI training, writes, "Why does the new AI Safety and Security Board have so many members with clear vested interests in rapid unregulated AI adoption, and so few who have AI expertise without those vested interests?" Now, one thing that should be noted here is that this is not a generalist government group to recommend on generalist AI policy. This is specifically focused on infrastructure challenges that come up with AI and the potential for infrastructure attacks. The WSJ interviewed Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, who said that embedding AI technology within the nation's water facilities, transportation systems, and banks presented tremendous opportunity to improve service to benefit Americans' daily lives, but also carried significant risks. He continued, "A failure to deploy AI in a safe and secure and responsible manner when it comes to critical infrastructure can be devastating." Now, I don't think that this entirely undermines that critique of the vested interests, but I do think it's worth noting what the mandate of this group is and what it isn't. Now, of course, with the names presented here, they're very clearly positioning this as a very important agency, otherwise you wouldn't get this sort of participation that they're getting. It seems like it was pretty clear to the Department of Homeland Security that this was going to come up as a critique. Again, from the Journal, Mayorkas said he wasn't concerned that the board's membership included many technology executives working to advance and promote the use of AI. Said Mayorkas, "They understand the mission of this board. This is not a mission that is about business development." Now, when it comes to what the board will actually do, they have their first meeting coming up this month in May, and they are apparently expected to convene quarterly. The idea of vested interests actually had a bunch of different flavors in the critique. Cole Roberts writes, "Looking like the regulatory capture monstars." Dr. Gingerballs writes, "Regulatory capture working exactly as intended. What a sham." Janelle Jumalon writes, "Let's have oil companies be on the board for green energy is what this is." Okay, so we have critiques that are a generalist vested interest concern from people who don't like AI that much, and then a regulatory capture critique from people who are in AI, which of course is closely related to the idea articulated by Accelerate Harder, who wrote, "Man, I'm so irritated by this list. Is there even one person here to take the side of open source AI? What a joke." A16Z's Martin Casado writes, "Almost no representation from startups or open source." Of course, this is related to that regulatory capture idea and is part of the specific concern about it. Yet another category of critique is what people are interpreting as purposeful snubs. Mihai Doho writes, DHS has deliberately not included the AI open source pioneers like Musk and Zuck. They don't want the people to own AI, they want to regulate AI so it's centralized power. We can't allow AI to belong to an elite. It needs to be free and open to all of us like the internet. Now, it was very notable last year when the White House started inviting CEOs to talk about AI that they did not include Mark Zuckerberg. When asked about the snub, the press secretary had a very snarky statement basically saying that this meeting was for people who are influential in AI only. Now, given how much Meta and Zuckerberg have shaped the open source side of this development, it's hard to read it as anything other than they do not like Mark Zuckerberg. Now, ultimately, this is just one random committee. How much they're actually likely to do, I think, is a very reasonable question. And so in that way, I think what's most interesting about it is these reactions and what they reflect about the state of the conversation. It is clear that from multiple sides, there is a significant concern with a very small handful of leading big tech industrialists being the ones to shape AI policy, even if those concerns are for entirely different reasons. Still, in the short term, I have to agree with Andrew Curran, who writes, the amazing thing about that AI board post was that for a few hours, everyone on my feed forgot they were supposed to be fighting. Safety, ACC, anti-AI artists, open source, all in near unison turned to look at this new thing that had appeared and in one voice condemned it. I will certainly be watching to see if anything more comes of this, but for now, that is going to do it for the AI Breakdown. Until next time, peace.